Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is December the 14th, 2022, and today we're going to be looking at the Feast of the Lord, particularly the Sabbath feast, in light of the Lunar Sabbath. Let's go ahead and get started. Speaking to the children of Israel and saying to them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season. So it tells us, it starts off by proclaiming the feast, and it gives us the definition of a feast as a holy convocation. You shall proclaim to be an holy convocation. Even these are the feasts. It repeats it down here. It lists off one of the feasts, and then it repeats it down here. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their season. So it's a holy convocation. But we're going to go back up and we're going to take a look at this one, because it tells us in the definition that this is a feast, and we know it because it spells out holy convocation as part of the definition. So a feast is a holy convocation. So let's look at the components of the feast though. It says 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest. So we know that the component of the Sabbath is 6 days of work and 1 day of rest. The seventh day, not 1 day, the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest. So we're going to go down, we're going to break this down to its very basics, and we're going to go and we are going to define a day. We don't know anything here. We need to figure out what a day is. So we go to Genesis, to the very beginning. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And the evening and the morning were the third day. I think we have our definition for day. A day consists of two components. One is the evening. The first component is the evening. The second component is the morning. Those two components define a day. Let's continue reading. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. One thing I got from the proponents of the lunar Sabbath was, they said when you make a great light, you cannot have it start off in darkness. He made the lights at their peak of heightness, high noon for the day, and then the full moon for the night. If it was all dark, then it's not a light. Anyway, I like that, so I decided I'd put that in there. But let's go on. Let's look at what we have here. So we know they're speaking of two great lights which they're about to make. And he said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, and they're going to divide the day, which now we are creatures of logic here. We have no problem identifying the day as the morning and the night as the night, as it is defined up here. The light is the day and the darkness is the night. Okay? And we also have no problem with identifying these two great lights as the sun and the moon. That's logical. So, but he says that he adds that the two great lights are going to be used to define, or they're going to be used not to define, but for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Now the problem is, the Lunar Sabbatarians say, because this is a feast day, and the feast uses the moon in order to define it, then the Sabbath must also use the moon in order to figure out what the Sabbath is. Now that's logical. That is a logical argument. So we need to go back and figure out. Hold on. Oh, okay, so we need to go back and take a look at this and find out what is going on. It said, God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days. So in order to identify the evening and the morning, we use the lights. But there's just one problem. We don't use lights to define a day. We use one light, the sun. So the Bible is wrong. Now the Bible is not wrong. We use the lights to define the sun. But guess what? We also use the lights to define the... Well, you know what? I'm not going to start speculating here. Let's look at the scripture. I have a scripture. So, you don't need the context of this in order to understand it, but I want to provide you with the context so that you can see that it does not change that it does not change the meaning of this scripture. So in this, the context is that he is praising God in all the wonderful works of God. Bless the Lord, O my soul, O Lord my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain. Thou coverest it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled. At the voice of thy thunder they hastened away. He sendeth the spring into the valleys, which run amongst the hills. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild asses quench their thirst. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth, and wine that maketh glad the heart of man, and oil to make his face shine, and bread which strengtheneth man's heart. The trees of the Lord are full of sap, the cedars of Lebanon which he has planted, where the birds make their nests. As for the stork, the fir tree is her house. The high hills are a refuge for the wild goats, and the rocks for the conies. He appointed the moon for season. The sun knoweth his going down. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. You see, the context is that he's praising God for all of his great and wonderful works. And this is listed as a great and wonderful work, apart from the other things that are listed as well. So let's investigate the scripture. He appointed the moon for seasons. Okay, let's stop there for a moment. Because we just read that the moon is not appointed for seasons. It didn't even use the word moon. It said two great lights. And it said both of them are used for the seasons. So now we have to think for a moment. Are we going to decide that one light is used for the moon, as it said in this? Are we going to say one light is used for the moon, for the seasons? Because if we say that, then we can also say that one light is used for the day. But both of those would be contesting Genesis 1, which says that both lights are used for the day and for the seasons. Obviously, we misinterpreted the scriptures. So let's go back and look at it again. He appointed the moon for seasons, the sun knoweth his going down. Well, what is this talking about? It's talking about the sun knoweth the going down of the moon. It's describing a clock. This moon just ticks away, and it reaches a certain point, and then that hour hand clicks over into the next hour. This is a clock that's being described here. We know that it's true because we use a calculated figure in order, well, a lot of people don't do this, but many of us use a calculated figure in order to find out when the next Sabbath day is going to be upon us. I certainly do. I don't look out the window. I'm not looking up at the sun. No. And that all it is saying is that you can calculate it because it's dependable. It is a dependable clock where the sun and the moon are used to determine the seasons, the days, the years. It's predictable. Now, if you'd like to look out at the stars and skies, that's fine. That's perfectly reasonable too, if that's for you. It's not for me. And this scripture is supporting that there is a circuit for the sun and the moon where they work together in order to define the seasons, the days, and the years. So let's go back. So now we have 6 days, and the days are defined, but we use the sun, but also the moon is used in order to calculate the position of the sun. It is a clock. So when it says it is a feast day, it is a holy convocation, then he uses both the sun and the moon. One other thing I want to point out is that the moon is not, I don't know if this is worth pointing out, to be honest with you. Listen, here's I'm going to point it out. You can't see the moon every night. Now, this is what they used to teach when I was in school, when I was young. Now they're changing. We know that they're changing history every single day. They just seized some online free book place where you download millions of books. I think they had 12 million books in their archives, and they just seized it, shut it down so that they could rewrite history again. And they let you have these websites so that when they go to rewrite history, they only have to go to one place. Everything's been accumulated in that one spot. So they go to that one place, change all of the textbooks, change all of the books, take out any evidence that they're lying, and they change history yet again. Look at all of the books that we've had in history. And you can't find anything at all that goes against the narrative. No, it's designed that way. We can see it now because they don't have a lot of time. They can't wait for the older breed to die out before they start changing history. Listen, I am going to say this. This is off topic. We lose this war. You guys, I don't know how long you've been with us, but we went through Ezekiel and we lose this war. We're not going to win. The people are going to be very, very evil. In Ezekiel, God says, I'm going to hide you from them. You can't chastise them. You can't talk to them. All you can do is tell them the truth and walk away. They're going to kill you if you don't leave them alone. They're wicked. They're wicked, and they're getting more and more and more wicked. It's working. They're changing the truth right before their eyes. Nobody cares because everybody is wicked. We lose this war. A whole lot of people are going to turn away from God. Okay? But anyway, back to the subject. We might revisit Ezekiel again later so we can talk about that. My point is that they're changing history. And if you try to use a dark moon to designate a new moon, it's not going to work because the moon is dark about 2 weeks out of the month. So you still have to use a calculation to know about when that moon is going to be dark. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Anyway, the full moon is the new moon. That's what I'm trying to say. The full moon is the new moon. But anyway, I have another scripture. It can be calculated, and it is calculated, and it generally probably, I want to say that it was calculated because, of course, we know that people were not dumb back in the day. They want you to think that everybody was dumb and a caveman. There's no evidence of that in the Bible. Everyone was born intelligent, an intelligent man. Okay, and you're not smarter than them. You're not. But anyway, let's read the scripture. Oh, I present this under the condition, with a condition. I don't know if this is true. I didn't investigate it. I'm presenting this not whether to say it's accurate or it's inaccurate. I'm presenting this to say that someone else knew that you could calculate it. Otherwise, this verse would be nonsensical. Okay, so let's read it. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. Listen, he probably could see the sun. It was in Gibeon. But how exactly did he know where the moon was? If he wasn't educated about the route of the sun and the moon, this just becomes a joke. If this was something that could not be seen and predicted and learned, how is he going to know? Is he going to run across the earth to see where the moon is standing at that time of the day? Absolutely not. They knew the calculations. They knew it back then. We know it now. We use it to calculate our Sabbaths on the computer today. It's not a mystery. Anyway. So we have our definition here. We have our definition for day. 6 days shall work be done. And then the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest. The good thing about this is it matches up consistently as well. We see over and over, 6 days are work days. The 7th day is the Sabbath of rest. There really is no justification for changing it to the 8th day. But let's just think logically about what they're doing. In the Bible, when we look at Genesis, there's no mention whatsoever of the moon. But they don't even use, but we know it's the moon. But the problem is they don't use the word moon. They use months. Hold on. They use months. This is the word for moon. Okay, well. The word month is the word that is used to describe new moon. I did not look up any, so I don't know if we're going to find any here. But you see it's a completely different number. It's 2320, and that is the word that they use to define new moon in many different places. And here is 3394. It's not the same word. And also what is not the same word, which they change. The word for Sabbath is not the same word as week. Fulfill her week. She bare a maid child, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks. It's a week. It's completely different than a Sabbath. A Sabbath is the seventh day. Even when you come down to the count. Hold on. In the Feast of Weeks. When you count, it doesn't tell you to count. It doesn't tell you to count weeks. I think it tells you to count weeks it's in another place in the Bible, but it tells you to start from a different place when you count weeks. When you start here, you're given a very clear definition to count from Sabbaths. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. If we were to find the other location where they say to count, it says count weeks from the day that you begin the harvest. A completely different count, a completely different way to count. It is not. These are different words, and different words have different meanings. If it meant week, it would have used the word week. It means Sabbath. And Sabbath is defined in Genesis as the 7th day. God can count. The first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, the 5th day, the 6th day, and the 7th day is a day of rest. There's no scriptural support to change those days based on the month, which isn't even mentioned here when you're given the definition of days. They don't even mention it. They don't even say the word moon. They don't say the word moon. They don't say the word month. They only give you the days because you're counting days only. And a day is an evening and a morning. And you identify the evening and the morning by the circuit of the sun and the moon working together to give us this great big beautiful clock in the sky. Anyway, that's my video. Oh, I did want to read you. What did I want to read you here? Oh, I read it to you. Okay, so I guess that's everything. Let's make sure. Okay, it's everything. All right, so we will close out there, and I will talk to you in the next video.